Welcome, everybody. I'm back in DC. Oop, just checking my TikTokers here. Watch. Excellent. All right. Woo. How is everybody? Yes, see, I'm back in my fabulous background with the sun shining in the window. Thus, oops, microphone. Now that I'm back in DC, I need people to remind me to use my microphone again. All right. All is well. Anyway, hey guys, I am back. Tell us where you're from, as always. Haven't done that in a while, so always nice. I am home. Exactly. At least I didn't get my water. See, this is what happens when you don't, it's funny, like changing location, I forget all the little things I'm supposed to remember. For example, getting my water. One moment while I get water. I can't believe I forgot to get water. The most important part of my show is water. 1 second, guys. Getting my water. There we go. Getting water. Very important to get the water. Woo! Man. Ooh, there we go. Oof, man. It's tough. It's like changing venues. And see, I've got the sun coming in a little bit. It's like I have to get back into the swing of doing things from my apartment. It's hard. Anyway, welcome everybody. Woo, man. Yeah, I think I got it. And I'm using the good microphone again. My favorite microphone. These microphones, the way you're supposed to use them is you're supposed to talk very softly, very closely into them. And it's supposed to, I guess, make you very sexy. Sasha is here. She is napping right now. She got fed, so she's happy. Weather in DC is still a little too balmy for my taste, 90 degrees, but what do you do? All right, guys. As always, the how you can help is on the screen. Basically, like, follow, do the GIFs on TikTok, but don't do the GIFs that go on my head. That's the one stuff on TikTok that doesn't work when I'm streaming like this. The head, the hats, the glasses do not work. All the other GIFs work, but any GIFs that like attach to my head do not work when I stream like this. So be careful. Otherwise, love the GIFs. We'll do shout outs when I see them. For you guys, of course, submit your questions on TikTok. Super chat questions, always welcome to support my work. For you guys on, thank you, TikTok. For you guys on TikTok, if you would submit the questions on the Q&A, that would help. The Q&A function on my screen, on the profile actually for TikTok, that would help a lot. And let's get rolling, guys. So pull up the topics, and there are the topics. I made them a little smaller since previously we were having a little bit of an issue with the my head running into the topics. So don't like it when that happens. But yeah, let's get rolling. And then afterwards, I will be hanging out on Discord, and we can have our usual fun hangout chat on Discord. On my Discord, what is it? Discord.aravosis.com. Anyway, to start with, let's do a quick little guests thing. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we are going to have David Frum as our guest. David is a longtime conservative Canadian-American, very interesting guy, brilliant guy. David's a longtime friend of mine as well. And we're going to talk about everything, where our country, my favorite topic with David, of course, is where our country stands and what's happening next. But join us with there, because that'll be very interesting. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, same time as this show tomorrow. Auction, we've got a new auction item. I've decided on the Discord this week, we're doing a test. I have opened up the auction to everybody. Previously, the auction was only for paid subscribers to our Discord, but we've got, 90% of you that are not paid subscribers. So if you want to head over, the auction is open for the next 5 days. I don't think I can show you the auction item or tell you what it is, because I think TikTok and YouTube would get upset with me. So I'm not doing that. All I can say is go there and check it out. It's way cool. Totally cool. And at least speaking for me, it would make a fabulous Christmas gift. Not for everybody, but for me, it's Ukrainian, of course. I would love it. So I'm not saying buy it for me. I've got one anyway. But check it out. Okay, so the news. Mrs. Zelensky attended the Queen's funeral today in person. Obviously, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, could not attend in person. That would be a bit much with the war going on. But Mrs. Zelensky was there, which I did not realize. I just saw a picture of her about half an hour ago. That was great. In Russia, there's a really interesting dissent happened this weekend from a Russian pop star who, in reading the defense folks I follow online, this woman, they said this woman is comparable to like Elvis and Bob Dylan combined in terms of Russian pop music. She is that big of a freaking deal. Her name is Alla Pugacheva. She was the defining, or is the defining artist of 20th century pop in Russia. So of the last century, of the last, the 1900s, she's it for, Madonna. Madonna is the other person they compared it to, this woman, that she would be akin to Madonna here in the West. I mean, amazing. Anyway, she came out and declared her opposition to the invasion of Ukraine on Sunday. She did a long post on Instagram about it. She addressed the Justice Ministry directly in Russia. She's Russian, in Russia, and declared that she now wants to be made a foreign agent as well, because the Russians came out and declared her husband a foreign agent on Friday. And she is not happy, came out very strongly. And again, somebody else is saying, Fender saying the Lady Gaga of Russia over on TikTok. I mean, she's that big, so interesting. I mean, again, at least the folks who know Russia and the defense folks were telling me could not be sort of understated how big of a deal this woman is. They sang a Russian song at the funeral in the UK. I did not know that. Other news, we've got what was I going to start with? I think I'm going to do the nuke plant with Putin's goals. Let me start with the Oskil River. So, or Oskil, however you do it in Ukrainian. Let me pull this up. So there's a river in eastern Ukraine. That is the whole map of Ukraine. You can see in the east, the red line is the river. Kharkiv, second largest city there. And now I'm going to zoom in, but I just wanted you to understand on the map where it was, okay? Now I'm zoomed in. Now you've got a better view of the eastern half of Ukraine. You can see Kharkiv in the north. You can see Luhansk in the east. That river, this Oskil River, was the sort of defining point of the Russian defense in the war, in the counteroffensive. In the last couple of weeks, the Ukrainians have been pushing back hard and won about 10% of their land back from the Russians. Massive success in this region that I'm showing you right now. Well, the Russians were dug in along this river, and the Ukrainians claimed yesterday that they have now crossed the river. That would be a big deal, because if they cross the river, it means they've now crossed over, and the Russian defense has once again broken. Nobody's been able to confirm this yet. Having said that, at least from what I've been finding, I'm just getting a little of my chapstick. What I've been finding on the Ukrainian side, I have not been finding a lot of things the Ukrainians have been claiming that have been subsequently untrue. So, I'm going to leave it at that. The sources I was reading said it wasn't confirmed yet, but very interesting, because it would mean yet again, and actually, these are the predictions that I believe it was the Institute for the Study of War last week, the think tank I really like, was saying that, it was them last week on Friday even, when I was saying, they said that if Ukraine continues to press in the east, the Russians are going to have a very difficult time stopping the Ukrainians from pushing further. In other words, the Russian defenses would have a very hard time holding up, and that looks like what we're hearing here. Pull up my questions again. Really big story today. Russia is yet again threatening a nuclear plant, an entirely different nuclear plant. I'm going to bring up the list of nuclear plants. This is a BBC map put together with the help of information from the Institute for the Study of War, the think tank I keep telling you about. Ukraine's got 4 functioning nuclear plants. The one that's not functioning, the 5th, is Chernobyl in the top. You see Kyiv, the capital, right north, Chernobyl. They've got 2 plants in the northwest there. The one in the southeast is Zaporizhia, which is the one the Russians keep hitting. It is the one that is also occupied by the Russians. And then you've got the plant. Now, mind you, let me tell you one more thing. This is an older map. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have grabbed this map, because ignore the red areas. The red areas were the areas of Russian control at the time I grabbed the map. So ignore that. But Zaporizhia is that plant is under Russian control right now. The South Ukraine plant is not under Russian control. The one that's right in the middle, right below the word Ukraine, that is the one the Russians almost hit today. The Russians tried to, actually they did damage a Ukrainian hydroelectric plant today. The Russians, as you know, have of late, because of the embarrassment of the counteroffensive and how badly the Russians did in the last week and a half, the Russians responded by trying to take out a lot of Ukraine's electricity. They'd previously been going after nuclear plants, we knew, but also they've been going after dams and other hydroelectric generators. Well, they blew up a hydroelectric facility today in that area, and one of their missiles landed only 900 feet away from the nuclear plant. This is now a third nuclear plant. Remember, they were lobbing missiles too close. They were firing at Chernobyl. Then they've been firing nonstop in the area and at Zaporizhia. Now they're firing as well at this plant in southern Ukraine, and they hit 900 feet away. That would be 270 meters. For the Americans out there, 900 feet, I calculated it, is about a block and a quarter away. This missile hit from the nuclear reactor. Big deal. Now, when nuclear reactors get hit, they don't necessarily blow up because, at least not initially, nuclear reactors tend to be built to, the old sort of adage, but it's true apparently, that nuclear reactors are built to withstand a jet crashing of 747 crashing into them. The problem is that the reactor core will survive. So the reactor itself kind of survives, but everything around the reactor is going to get blown up. And what does that mean? That means the electricity, potentially the electrical lines going to the reactor to keep the coolant going, because you've got water circulating that's keeping the cooling rods from overheating and melting down, literally causing a nuclear meltdown where the uranium fuel just goes through the floor of the earth and you've got big problems. Well, if you got missiles hitting, you could easily knock out the electricity, and you could knock out the backup generators, which are simply diesel fuel generators. So that's the real concern here is, and if that happens, then you're talking nuclear meltdown, and that we know is a big deal. Now, Putin has not only been trying to go after water and power, which is the other idea of going after this, because he wants to make the Ukrainians basically freeze with the winter coming, but he's also trying to freak out the Europeans. Putin has been repeatedly going after the Zaporizhia nuclear plant. I'll pull it up again just to show you. So Zaporizhia, right, a little bit southeast there, or east, I should say, of the South Ukraine plant. And Putin's been going after the Zaporizhia one in order to, again, kill the power. It's potentially 20% of Ukraine's power at that one plant, but also to freak out the Europeans. He wants the Europeans to sit there and go, oh my God, he's firing a nuclear plant. We're neighbors. This has to stop, right? And this has to stop benefits Putin because Putin is still occupying, 18% of Ukraine's territory? So if you freeze everything right now, you freeze Russia occupying 10% or 18% of Ukraine. So Putin wants to freak out the Europeans. Also, I think he wouldn't have a problem with blowing up the plant anyway and causing mass destruction, ecological destruction in Ukraine, because that's the kind of guy he is. Keep in mind that, yes, this would cause damage and it would cause death and nuclear radiation poisoning in Russia as well, because it's not that far from the Russian border to the east. But keep in mind that Putin, it is believed, blew up an apartment building in Moscow back in, I think it was 1999. 1999 or 2003, I always forget this. I think it was 99, which helped usher in his presidency. He basically created a terrorist attack in Russia. So very bad news. Sort of the ultimate false flag operation. Very bad. Next story. Ukraine. Oh yeah. So I've got a number of stories here grouped together about like the conflict overall, kind of how it's going. Ukraine reports that it has destroyed a Russian military base in occupied Luhansk. And Luhansk, I also grabbed the oblasts today to show you the regions. Here we go. Luhansk is the region all the way to the east. So all the way to the right, you see Luhansk in red. Now it's sort of, because I'm always describing Luhansk and Donetsk to you. Donetsk is the province right next to it, to the left of it, in purple. Those together are called Donbas. So whenever they say the Donbas, that's the region in particular that Russia's been wanting to grab. Although, frankly, they're occupying much of Zaporizhia and much of Kherson as well. So you see it's a direct line going from the right to the bottom left. Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and then Crimea, which is further to the south, directly to the south in blue. Actually, I like that it's color-coded. It makes it a little easier. In blue is the territory that the Russians invaded and have been occupying, basically holding hostage since 2014. So, so the Ukrainians claim they've destroyed a military base in Luhansk, which is great. This was really good. I'm going to jump around a couple different regions here. This was really good. So, I would have grabbed a map of this too. I'll show you the map of Ukraine. It at least gives you an idea here. Wait a minute. Oh, this map works. This map works. Okay, this is from a couple days ago, but it's still pretty on point. It'll be covering my face a bit, but that's okay. So this is, if you look at the west side of this map, okay, you see the last little bits of the word Mykolaiv. It's kind of cut off. So you'll see, what is it? AIV, I think I've got there. Yeah, LAIV. And that is the northernmost part of the Kherson province. Okay, remember that province that's to the south is Crimea, to the north is Kherson. Well, that's the province I keep telling you about because the river Dnipro cuts right through there. And it basically runs along, I'd say it kind of runs along it probably does, runs along the top of the Kherson province, top of the Zaporizhia province, going east, and it cuts the country in two. Remember how I keep telling you, north of that river, when you get over by Kherson, you see the town of Kherson on the west, in the left, and you see the town of Mykolaiv cut off a little bit. Well, when you get just north, Kherson is north of the river. Just a little east of there, but still north of the river, there's about 20,000 Russian troops. They are the only Russian troops north or west of that river. All the other Russian troops are on the other side of the river. So the Ukrainians, for a couple months now, have been blowing up the bridges on that river near the town of Kherson in order to trap the Russian troops north and west of the river, the 20,000 troops. Not only are they trapped in terms of they have no way of escaping if there's an offensive directly taking them on from the north and the west, right? Because Ukraine is in the northwest coming down at them. But also it means they're not getting reinforcements. They're not getting new tanks. They're not getting fuel. They're not getting food and water, right? They're not getting manpower. They're not getting anything. Well, the Ukrainian spokesperson for the Ukrainian Southern Operational Command says that the Russian forces being sandwiched there, the Ukrainians are offering, but basically the Ukrainians have in fact now sandwiched them. They've got them with their backs up against the wall because the river's cut off, and the Ukrainians are offering them the possibility of surrender. She did not say, the spokesperson, what exactly the Russians were being offered or if any of them took the offer, but that's an area to keep watching because, as I said, the Ukrainians keep, even though obviously big battles have been going on in the east, right? This is still in the southern region here. The Ukrainians are fighting, and that area around the river is going to be really interesting to see if they can really cut those Russians off, basically. Hang on, let me get a little water here. Pull that map away. Another interesting, my back's been bothering me today. It's funny, like sitting up here doing this for you guys this way, my back hurts. Another interesting story I've been noticing, there was reportedly in the last couple of days, the Ukrainians hit the airport in Melitopol. Let me show you on the big map. Melitopol is in the south. Oh, my big map doesn't have it. Okay, I'm going to show you on the big map, even though it's not there. If you can find Crimea, okay, which is the peninsula hanging down. If you follow the coast up to the right, you finally see Mariupol, right? Well, halfway between, I'd say almost maybe halfway between Mariupol and Kherson. So from Mariupol, go directly west. And when you get to the river, you'll see Kherson, Kherson. About halfway there is Melitopol. Let me see. Does this have Melitopol? This has Melitopol. Yeah. Okay, I've zoomed in a little here. So this is now you've got a little more of the eastern Ukraine. You can see Mariupol there, almost directly in the middle from the bottom, going up a little, you see Mariupol, and then just follow the little yellow highway. I'm guessing it might even be the highway. Follow the little yellow highway, you'll see Berdyansk, and then a little further to the west, you'll see Melitopol. The Ukrainians have been hitting Melitopol really hard, and they've been doing it for a few weeks now. And it's been very interesting. I've just been very interested by this because it's nonstop. Now, it is behind enemy lines. The Russians control it. Now, it's possible that it's simply a region that contains a huge amount of Russian supplies, right? So they could simply be blowing up Russian military supplies, especially ammunition, fuel, things like that. What's interesting is we're hearing things like this from, well, and actually in the airport. The airport could simply mean that they're stopping Russian planes from taking off, and those planes otherwise would help the Russian troops in the east, or they'd help the Russian troops fight defending themselves in Kherson over to the west. I also wonder whether this is, again, part of a larger shaping strategy where the Ukrainians are basically softening the land, so to speak, for a potential future invasion that will then take them to Melitopol as well. Either way, keep an eye on it because there's been a lot of attacks on Melitopol in the last couple of weeks, and it's caught my eye. It just keeps happening and happening and happening. United Kingdom Defense Intelligence put out a most recent analysis in the last day saying that Russia has likely lost 4 fighter aircraft in 10 days. They have lost 55 aircraft since the war began, but that's 6.5, almost 7 months now. If it were 7 months, that's like 210 days. This is 4 fighter craft in 10 days. That's twice as much as they should be losing. Some of the thought, in terms of compared to the rest of the war, some of the thought is from UK Defense Intelligence. They said there is a realistic possibility that this uptick in losses is partially a result of the Russian Air Force accepting greater risk as a result greater risk as it attempts to provide close air support to Russian ground forces under pressure from Ukraine advances. In other words, the Ukrainians are advancing in the east, and frankly, the south as well. The Russians are under pressure. Well, they're under pressure from the Ukrainians who keep coming at them, but they're actually under pressure from Vladimir Putin, who's pissed as hell that the Ukrainians are doing this well and the Russians are fleeing. And my guess is, just a guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if part of this is Putin has said, I don't care how many of your planes and pilots you lose, get that damn land back. That's my guess. So the Russians are taking more risks, but they're losing more planes. And, they only got so much they can lose here. Pilots, especially. Pilots, people were telling me, pilots, I think it was pilots trained for like 7 years or something. It's an incredible amount in terms of how long the pilots train for, So this is, again, part of the price the Ukrainians are paying for not having sufficient, the Russians, for not having sufficient, thank you on TikTok, for not having sufficient control of the air. Now we get to the scary news. Okay, so Izium. We've been talking the last couple of days. Certainly I was talking last week, and then this weekend, if you were following the news, lots of new suggestion of war crimes. And Izium is, I'm going to see if let me go to my large map first and see if it's on here. I got my glasses on for this one. Yeah, it's not on this map. Izium is basically sort of southeast of Kharkiv. I'm going to do my zoom map. Let's do the wide shot. On this one, you'll see it. This makes it easy. On this one, the Oxil River that I'd highlighted in red, look at the bottom of the river, and you will see the town of Izium, okay? That is the town where there's been all the talk of war crimes. This is eastern Ukraine. You see the Dnipro River on the left, cutting the country in half, so to speak. Izium is where all the talk of the war crimes has been of the last several days. What has happened is military and police investigators say that there are 445 single graves and at least one mass grave containing 17 bodies. The governor for Kharkiv Oblast reports that 146 bodies have been exhumed from the mass burial site, most of which are civilians, including 2 children. On September 17th, he reported that many bodies had signs of violent death. All the bodies have reportedly been sent for forensics examination to determine the cause of death. Different story, also very interesting. Former U.S. General Ben Hodges, who is a former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe. And I've still got the T-shirt map, but I didn't. It was sort of easy to keep. I have it here just in case. It was easy to sort of bring up the map on the screen, but it's here. I've got the fail-safe just in case. So somebody on TikTok said they missed the T-shirt map. It's still here. Fret not. Fret not. But Ben Hodges, okay, U.S. General, former head of the Army in Europe for the United States, big deal. He gets interviewed by the Kyiv Independent, big English language paper in Ukraine, and they're asking him about the likelihood of Russia using nuclear weapons. Now, he says he thinks it's unlikely because basically he doesn't see a strategic advantage for Russia. He says, what do they get? They use some field nuclear weapons. He doesn't he basically said it's not clear. Not only will they lose a lot because they'll force the U.S. to enter the war, he said, but what do they get out of it? They drop some he said, God forbid they nuke Kharkiv, right? The Ukrainian city in the northeast. Because, and, I mean, the thing is, right, is Ukraine gonna drop out of the war? No. I would imagine, knowing the Ukrainians, that's the last thing that would happen, right? Last thing that would happen would be they drop out of the war. So what Hodges said was he thinks it's unlikely that the Russians will use any kind of a nuclear bombs, small nuclear bombs even, in Ukraine. But he also said, and this is where the Kyiv Independent asked him more, was he also said that the U.S. would enter the war. Now, what he said was very interesting reasoning, which sort of an obvious one, but I hadn't thought of this before, and it was a really good point. He said the United States could not ignore that Russia used nuclear weapons, because if they did, then the North Koreans, the Chinese, and the Iranians, among others, will think we could use a nuclear weapon because, right, they would use it and they'd get away with it. If we didn't treat it as any big deal, then other countries, India and Pakistan, right, Israel, I mean, there's lots of nuclear weapons out there. So he said that does not mean that U.S. troops are going to come to Ukraine. He said the U.S. will enter the war. But he said that doesn't mean we're putting troops in. So the Kyiv Independent said, so if it's a non-nuclear response and it's inside Ukraine, but it's not sending troops, what could it be? Hodges responded, you would have to send troops, meaning air power or cruise missiles, something like that, meaning bombers, for example, or cruise missiles. For me, the most likely thing, this I thought was fascinating. For me, the most likely thing would be something like airstrikes against Russia's Black Sea Fleet. The Black Sea Fleet is based in, let me see, once again, checking my handy dandy map. Ukraine map is based in Crimea. It's there. Yep. At the very southernmost tip in the middle, right? So you got the peninsula coming down from Ukraine is Crimea. That's the Ukrainian peninsula that Russia stole in 2014. They're still occupying. At almost the southern tip of Crimea, you see the town of Sevastopol. That's where the Russian Black Sea Fleet is based. It is a huge Russian fleet that is based there, okay? He said he could see something like airstrikes against the Russian Black Sea Fleet to wipe it out, to take it out entirely, or to crush Russian forces that are in Crimea or other places inside Ukraine. So, in other words, either we would destroy Russia's fleet in the Black Sea entirely, which would be a huge response. I mean, it's an act of war. I mean, it's an act of war if we do that. Or we would destroy Russia's troops in a number of parts of Ukraine, which again would be an act of war. That, I mean, we would be at war with Russia at that point. But we really wouldn't have a choice, because if Russia uses nuclear weapons, what do you do? It's scary. It's scary stuff. But he did say, again, he thinks it's very unlikely that Russia will use the nuclear weapons, which is good. Baltics and Poland. This was good. Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland have cut off entry to their countries from Russian tourists, and Finland has made it more difficult. Switzerland has also ended fast-track visas for Russian nationals. You might recall there's been a debate going on for a few weeks about trying to cut off Russian tourists coming to Europe, because a number of European countries, especially those in the East, are saying it's unseemly to have Russian tourists come when Russia's creating genocide in Ukraine, committing genocide. And the EU overall has been unwilling to accept that. The UN Secretary General has also criticized cutting off the Russians, but the Baltic states and Poland basically took it upon themselves to do it. So hats off to them. The McDonald's, in happy news for anybody who's Ukrainian or foreigner in Ukraine, McDonald's is going to resume delivery from restaurants in Kyiv. Now, I had no idea McDonald's did delivery. Is that something that only takes place like in foreign countries? Does that even exist in the US, that McDonald's delivers? Like, I think you can use one of those delivery apps overall. What's it called? You know what I mean? Whatever the delivery app is to deliver. But I never even heard that McDonald's would deliver. So I was like, McDonald's is resuming deliveries in Kyiv. And I'm like, since when do they deliver? They deliver in the UK. Interesting. Big Easy says on TikTok. Uber Eats. Yeah, Uber Eats. I figured you can do that, but this sounds like in Canada they do. Okay, so basically everywhere other than where I live, McDonald's delivers. So they do it in other countries, not in the US. Yeah, they use third-party apps in the US, but they don't, like DoorDash, exactly. But I've never heard of them just delivering. That's wild. They deliver in Germany. Okay, so basically McDonald's does it everywhere but here and in France. That is too funny. Okay, so McDonald's hates us, and Japan. All right, you've proven your point, everybody. McDonald's delivers everywhere but here. Fair enough. The company said 3 of its restaurants in Kyiv will resume delivery on September 20th, and 7 more will follow in about a week. In October, the restaurants will resume dining in. McDonald's shut down all of its 109 restaurants in Ukraine when Russia's invasion began. In August, it said it would gradually reopen the restaurants in Kyiv and the west of Ukraine. Germany and Slovenia have agreed to transfer 28 M55S tanks to Ukraine. This is one of those deals where the Slovenians would give some of their tanks to Ukraine, and the Germans would then provide new tanks to the Slovenians. Germany also is going to be sending 4 more Panzerhaubitzer 2,000 howitzers to Germany. The plan was announced by Germany's defense ministry. The delivery will bring the number of self-propelled artillery sent to Ukraine by Germany and the Netherlands to syndicate, to 22 units, including 14 sent by Germany. So that's good. Bloomberg says that Turkey's İsbank, however you pronounce it, has suspended use of Russian Mir cards. I'm guessing these are debit cards or credit cards. Turkey's largest lender, İsbank, has suspended transactions through the Russian payment system Mir, Bloomberg reported. The decision came after the U.S. Treasury warned against financial institutions cooperating with the Russian operator. Turkey has not implemented sanctions imposed on Russian institutions due to Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The New York Times says that senior officials from Russia and Crimea have agreed. This was actually the first paragraph of their story. I'm just going to read it. Senior officials from Russia and Senior officials from Russia and China. I'm going Crimea. I've got Crimea on the brain after we've had all these stories about Crimea and Sevastopol. Senior officials from Russia and China have agreed to carry out more joint military exercises and enhance defense cooperation, according to statements on Monday, signaling that whatever misgivings Beijing may have over the war in Ukraine, the nation's strategic partnership was only growing closer. And finally, President Biden met on Friday with Brittany Griner's wife and Paul Whelan's sister. You'll recall that both of them are being held hostage by the Russians. Paul Whelan for a while now, I believe a couple of years. Brittany Griner since probably a week before the war started, they grabbed her. So that is what I've got for the news. TikTokers, go to the Q&A and put your questions there if you would. The rest of you, obviously, feel free to use the question box at the bottom of the screen for all of the rest of you non-TikTokers. Thank you for the heart over there on TikTok. Let me see if I've got anybody here already on the TikTok front. Actually, Wendy is throwing in here really quick. Wouldn't this be corporate McDonald's delivering products to Kyiv locations? Not sure what you mean by corporate McDonald's delivering products. Oh, maybe they, well, it said resuming deliveries though. That means they used to deliver. So I'm not sure, but that's that they were delivering clearly. Kelly Font says American warships are already in the Black Sea. Thank you for the origami there. My auction, by the way, Little Dumpy's asking, is over on my Discord. So if you go to discord.aravosis.com, you can sign up for free. And once you do the README so that you can get yourself approved, go and check out the auction. Let me show Harvey. I was going to call you Keitel, like Harvey Keitel, Harvey Kittle. It's been a while, Harvey. I think I'm forgetting how to pronounce your name. Harvey says, thoughts on new Belarusian legislation to stop religious groups from appealing to the UN regarding human rights violations. Wow, interesting. It's being supported by Patriarch Kirill. Patriarch Kirill is the Russian patriarch. Oh, that's nasty. Oh, that's just nasty. Wow, I hadn't heard about that, Harvey. So Belarusian legislation to stop religious groups. Belarus, let me show you my handy dandy map again. Belarus is right to the, okay, if you go straight up Kyiv, you look at my map, right in the middle, towards the top, you go to that river, Kyiv is right along the river, right? So Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital, you go straight up, you hit Belarus. If you kind of go a little bit over to the right, to the east, you'll see that line going up, that's Russia. So straight up is Belarus, and it goes way over to the left until it kind of intersects with Poland. So that's where Belarus is. Belarus is run by a dictator who is good friends with Putin. His name is Lukashenko. He has been helping the Russians with their invasion. He helped the Russians. He allowed the Russians to transit his territory and invade from his territory. He's been allowing them flights taking off and firing at Ukraine from his territory, but he has not invaded. He has not sent his own troops in there, his own Belarusian troops, which is interesting. And there are a number of Belarusian citizens who volunteered on their own to support the Ukrainians. Now, it is a brutal dictatorship, thus the reason that Harvey is mentioning the new legislation. But I didn't know about that. No. I mean, it's awful, Harvey. What else to say? You know what I mean? I mean, obviously. But really interesting. New legislation to stop religious groups. And now, I will say this. I would think already if you're in a dictatorship, you're already in trouble if you're appealing to the United Nations for help, because the dictatorship isn't going to like that. So the idea of making legislation, I guess, what's interesting is it means Lukashenko felt he had to use some patina of the law. Like he wanted a specific law to make it illegal rather than simply going, you go to the UN, I'm going to have you killed, right? He wanted some legal reason, so that's why he's doing it. I'm just intrigued. I don't know Belarus enough internally to know why he wanted this legal patina he could put. Oh, I'm not anti-religion. I'm just saying that they broke the law, blah, blah, and you must obey the law. So that's what I got. Russia asking openly about their 20-year-old sons. Oh, that's interesting. Alek is saying he saw a few videos on mothers in Russia asking openly about their 20-year-old sons in Ukraine. Especially in the last week, they're finally seeing the news in Russia, and they're seeing how bad things are. I mean, they're seeing it on the Russian evening news shows, that I would think there's going to be some Russian moms who are a little freaked out. That would be my sense here. But yeah, Kirill is the patriarch. He's nasty. Kira Luna, not a question, but news that I'm not sure was discussed. Students went back to school in Western Ukraine. They have to carry an emergency bag with them at all times in case of bomb threats. Oh my God. I mean, I can imagine because, it sounds like kids in America getting their, oh God, a couple of years ago, I remember this, they were selling backpacks that were bulletproof. So when the kid could wear the backpack, like if he got shot in the back, they wouldn't hurt them, or they could turn it around and protect their chest. I mean, horrific stuff. But yeah, that's horrible. That's horrible. Yeah, in case of bomb threats, and it's not just bomb threats, but the Russians have bombed. They bombed Lviv before. If they bomb and these kids get injured, or the schools get, the school gets bombed or something, you need to have a way of identifying who the kids are. What if they're 5 and 6-year-olds? It's horrible. I didn't even mean the kids get hit. I meant the kids are injured or something, where are their parents, that kind of thing. So yeah, no, it's horrific. And thank you for that, Kira. I appreciate the donation as well. Let me do a quick look at TikTok here. Yeah, I got my second monkeypox vaccine today. The first put me on my ass for a week. It left I had a swollen like a walnut in my right bicep, my right tricep for 4 weeks. But apparently that's not unusual. But it left me pretty sick for a week. I mean, I was not happy. But what do you do? Better than getting monkeypox. Second one, we'll see. The second one I got, they do here on your arm, like on the front of the under part of your arm. And it's this not even subcutaneous. It's in the cutaneous layer of the skin. So it's in the top layer of your skin. They inject with a very fine needle. They go in sideways to the skin, and it just creates a little bulge of vaccine that then gets absorbed into your body. So we're going to find out. I will say this, actually, interesting aside, which is interesting, I think, politically. The first time I went, it was pretty much gay white men. This is Washington, D.C. The time I went today now, 2 months later, it was a lot of black people. It was a lot of women. There were a number of black and white women getting their shots, which I thought was very interesting because it means the concern has started to, in at least Washington, D.C., the concern has branched out from the gay community to, from gay male community at least. And I don't know what orientation these women were, but they weren't gay men, that's for sure. Okay, actually, Harvey's weighing in again. Oh, thank you, Harvey, for doing that. Harvey's weighing in with some more. Lukashenko, who's the dictator in Belarus, seems to be getting concerned recently. The person who ran against him in the 2020 election. Oh, yeah, I follow her aide. I may follow her as well. I follow her top aide on Twitter. He's very active. Svetlana Tsikhanouskaya has a lot of popular support and is calling out that the election was rigged. Yeah. Now, wasn't that the election that... was it that year or the year before that there was kind of an uprising and Putin came in and actually helped not her. He came in and helped Lukashenko, his little buddy. So very interesting. Yeah. No, I know, Roisin, but the issue with monkeypox is in the States, at least, it's hit the gay community first. So a lot of gay men have gotten it first, and there was a risk of straight people thinking it was a gay disease and not realizing, and now we're starting to see cases, an increase in cases outside of the gay community. That's why I bring it up. And frankly, that's why when I got my first shot, I'm telling you, it was all gay men, mostly white men. Every single person in that room was gay. As a gay man, let me just tell you, we have ways of knowing these things. Every single guy was gay. There wasn't a single straight person in that room. Now it was a lot of straight people. That was very interesting to me. So clearly the mentality has changed, which is good. The perception. What do you think the U.S. will do if Russia blows up the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant? The general got into sort of details about it. What he was saying, what he was saying, what General Hodges, former U.S. general, he said that he thinks the U.S. would absolutely get involved, that we would do something such as blowing up Russia's Black Sea Fleet, which is based out of Sevastopol, Crimea, which is the territory that the Russians stole from Ukraine in 2014. He also said he could see us, in lieu thereof, if we didn't blow up the Black Sea Fleet, he could see us basically killing a lot of Russian troops in Ukraine themselves, bombing them. We also could use, he didn't say this, but he mentioned cruise missiles and bombers. We could use cruise missiles on military headquarters because we've got a lot of intelligence of where the Russians are. And we've got intelligence on things like generals, which we do give to Ukraine, but we're careful on things like generals because at this point, we're not helping the Ukrainians directly target generals. We're not saying, here's a general, go kill him, right? That's apparently something that supposedly we're not doing. I think that restriction, that self-imposed restriction would go away. I think you would potentially have the U.S. finally set up a no-fly zone over Ukraine, potentially. But I think potentially, here's the question. The question is whether you would see a massive U.S. response in response to the Russians using a nuke, or you would see a measured but strong U.S. response. As the general said, you'd have to use a strong enough response that it sends the message to anybody else who thinks, hey, we can use a little nuke or two in our battle, and what's the U.S. going to do? It needs to send the response to them that, holy crap, what the U.S. did, there is no way we want the U.S. doing that if we go to war, right? So it has to be that kind of it should be a massive world response, I agree, but also the U.S. would have to do some kind of military response that was just crushing. But if we do it, we're at war with Russia. So you get an interesting question of just, is it a one-time strong thing, like destroying the Black Sea Fleet, and then we say, now we're staying out of it, but if you do it again, we're coming even harder. But I wonder if that wouldn't be it. I wonder if it wouldn't be that instead of shock and awe, which is basically we'd go nuts on them. I wonder if it wouldn't be something where we do something very firm, like take out their entire fleet, or the fleet out of that base. But we then stop and say, okay, Russia, now you've learned your lesson. If you do it again, we're going to do something even bigger next time. But that way, it's not we keep bombing, and then the Russians think, well, they've got to bomb Poland, and it becomes a bigger thing. Because there still is worried about escalation, even though it's obviously pretty horrific if the Russians do that, right? Do you believe the general statement on response to nukes is why Russia had deployed one new ships in the Black Sea? I'm not sure what you mean, Drake. I do know overall that Russia, for example, moved its ships further back, right? Because they were I'll pull up the map again of Sevastopol, since we are talking about this. Sorry. Drake, I'm going to move your question out of the way. So you see the Crimea map. You see Sevastopol, which is all the way down, right? All the way down in the south there. The Russians pulled their ships even further back after the Ukrainians sank the Moskva. Remember the flagship in the south of there that the Ukrainians blew up and sunk. And after the Ukrainians, again, the Russians moved even further back when the Ukrainians started attacking a number of the Russian air bases in Crimea. So the Russians were already moving back. They were worried. So the general statement is I'm not sure what your question is exactly, though. I'm not sure. Sorry. Well, the thing is here. Hold on, let me go back, and I'm going to go back and move this off the screen. So PB&J is saying, as U.S. tensions with China increase, do you think China will throw some support to Russia? Potentially, but I read this weekend. I should have grabbed the quote for you guys. Actually, hold on a second. It's probably on my phone. Hang on. It's such a good quote that I want to kind of grab it and read it rather than paraphrasing it. Biden this weekend, supposedly. All right, give me a quick sec. I'm going to see if I can. One quick sec. Looking for a Biden quote. Otherwise, I will tell you what he said anyway. But Biden apparently called the Chinese and kind of laid into Xi, the head of the Chinese government, and said that. No, I'm not going to find it. Biden called Xi and laid into him, and he said, basically, I'm going to mix this up now. Hold on. He did, yeah. This wasn't about Taiwan. This, I believe, was about Ukraine, and he said that if you want, he basically said you need to watch yourself. I forgot the exact words, but he basically said you got to watch yourself. Because if you want because no American company and no foreign company is going to invest in the Chinese economy if you basically, put yourself in the same bed as Russia in Ukraine. But he called him and he laid it out very, very sternly. And because I remember that line exactly, no American company is going to invest in China. And he's also saying we're going to do what we can to stop it. But China, I always remind folks, I think it was the first week I was doing these updates, and we had somebody joining us that was watching who had grown up in China. And he said, you've got to realize the most important thing for China is the economy. And just that, it's not having a strong military relationship with Russia or anything else. It's the economy. And when it comes to the economy, the Europeans and the Americans are way more important economically to China than Russia is, because Russia's a small economy and getting smaller by the day. What else we got here? Yeah, Biden's been interesting lately. Harvey's saying Biden's been doing a lot of interesting things lately. He's found a lot of interesting things. One of the things Biden did too, unrelated to this, he was asked about 60 Minutes, a big popular American TV show going back 50 years plus now. 60 Minutes, actually, yeah, at least 50 years. They existed in the late 60s. 60 Minutes interviewed Biden, and they asked him about Taiwan, and he said, we would absolutely get involved if China invaded. And they said, you mean militarily? And he said, yeah. They said, you mean American troops on the ground? He said, yeah, American men and women on the ground in Taiwan if China invaded. And 60 Minutes was like pressing him, what do you mean? This is probably the fourth time Biden has said this, something like that. And he's been quite consistent, and I'll give him credit for it. I mean, the White House keeps saying it's not a change in policy. I've seen kind of a mix on this. I've seen U.S. defense officials claiming, forget the White House. The White House is always, they drive me a little crazy. Biden says something and they always go, that's not what he meant. You're like, shut up, But what's interesting is I've seen defense folks who said Biden hasn't said anything new. And I'm like, yeah, he has, right? As I recall, the whole thing with strategic ambiguity was the U.S. not saying openly, I mean, we have a defense treaty with Taiwan, but not saying openly if we would go to war if Taiwan invaded. And we intentionally kept it vague. So I think, we talked about this before too, the whole one China policy and all this crazy stuff. But there were a lot of reasons why that we kept it very vague. That's different than Biden saying, hell yeah, I'd put our men and women on the ground, our troops on the ground if China invaded. That's what he has said now repeatedly. That means it's true, and it means he's not backing down. It also means, I think, that concerns about China doing something are real. That Biden wouldn't be making all these statements repeatedly if there were zero concern about China acting up, right? Because then keep the policy the same. Just say, well, I'm not going to confirm or deny. I'm not going to take a position. I'm just saying, they better be careful. He's saying, oh yeah, we would invade. I mean, to me, that's pretty in your face compared to what our policy used to, at least what our statement of policy. Maybe the policy hasn't changed. Maybe we all knew, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, that that U.S. troops would be on the ground defending Taiwan, but the president wouldn't say it before. And I wonder if that's not because Biden sort of got word through intelligence that, yeah, the Chinese thing, there's a little bit of concern about China revving up a little bit. Maybe not that they're going to invade, but, it's more so than it was 6 months ago or a year ago of a chance, even if it's a low chance. All right. Let me go again to TikTok. As I said, guys, put your questions in the profile. I also do try to look for questions here on the screen, but it's easier to put them in the profile. The Russians have moved the I saw that. The S-300s protecting the Kremlin. Those are the anti-aircraft batteries. I didn't see if they were the ones protecting the Kremlin or somewhere else. I don't remember, but they basically, the Russians are so in need of weapons in Ukraine that they're now cannibalizing their defenses in the rest of the country. Let me just look, because maybe you're right that it was, my God, it couldn't have been the Kremlin. Wasn't, I mean, maybe it was. I didn't remember it was that bad. Hold on. Russia S-300s. But I read the other day about this. Well, we knew they already were moving them out of Syria at the end of August. Russia moves missiles from St. Petersburg to Ukraine. That I read. That's what I had read. So they moved it from St. Petersburg, their second largest city, their big important city, and old anti-aircraft missiles. That could be it, actually. That may be what you were reading about. So it may not have been. I don't know if you saw a different report about the Kremlin, but that may be what you were thinking of. Yeah, that's what I think you were thinking of. So yeah, St. Peter, exactly. Ray is saying the same thing, St. Petersburg. Yeah. Okay. All right, that's cool. What do we got? No, I'm with you, Felix. I don't understand why we don't have universal health care either. I wish we did. Or let me say, I understand why we don't have it. I'm not happy about it, but I do understand why. No news on the Armenia-Azerbaijan war. Last I saw, it was kind of holding in there, I believe. What else we got here? Another couple more minutes. Does Ukraine have enough resources to respond to liberated areas? They took so much land so quickly. I worry about them having enough food. That is a concern. I know that there was a story in the last day that the Ukrainian government is telling people in some of the newly occupied lands to basically move to bigger cities, to basically get out. Because I don't remember if it's food or if it certainly is electricity, heat, how they're going to heat themselves in the winter. But I'm guessing food's a problem too, because if the Russians destroyed this area, right, you're not going to have grocery stores. Or farms were destroyed. So if you were using farms, right, the farmers have left, or their animals have been killed. So that's as I said, there was a story in the last day or so of the Ukrainian government telling people that at least for the winter, they need to move to bigger cities, that it's just not safe. I don't know. Well, I know the World Food Program has been sending food, because Vlad was actually telling me, by the way, oh my God, I got a new shipment from Vlad. Oh my God. He sent, I'll have to do this. I don't want to bore everybody to death, but oh my God, hold on. I'm going to at least grab, he sent, I'm grabbing okay, you know what? We've got 2 minutes left. I'm going to show you some of Vlad's stuff. Let me do the wrap up, and then I'm going to show you a few of the things that Vlad had. Oh my God, he sent me some of the coolest things. Some of them we're going to give away as gifts. Some of them we're going to auction in the Discord. So remember, it's discord.aravosis.com. Some of them we're going to give away as gifts. We've got a new fundraiser coming up, probably one this week, one in the next week or two as well. And we'll give some of them away as gifts to those of you who donate. But real quick, so Mrs. Zelensky attended the Queen's funeral. Russia's defining 20th century pop star, Alla Pugacheva, has declared her opposition to the war in Ukraine. Ukraine's military said on Sunday that its forces had crossed the Oskil River, which was a big deal because it was the big defensive line for Russian troops. Russian missiles attacked a hydroelectric plant near the southern Ukraine nuclear plant, only 900 feet away, 300 meters. Ukraine reportedly destroyed a Russian military base in occupied Luhansk. Russian forces are sandwiched between Ukraine's military and the Dnipro River in the south. The Ukrainians keep hitting Melitopol in sort of the southeast. They reportedly hit the airport this time. UK Defense Intelligence said that Russia has likely lost 4 fighter aircraft in the last 10 days. The governor of Kharkiv province says that most bodies exhumed from the mass burial site in Izium were civilians. The former U.S. general, I told you guys this about earlier, we talked about this at length, but says that the U.S. would enter the war if Putin used nukes. Baltic countries and Poland cut off entry from Russian tourists. McDonald's is resuming deliveries from restaurants in Kyiv. Germany and Slovenia agreed to transfer 28 M55S tanks to Ukraine. Germany is sending 4 more Panzerhaubitzer 2000 howitzers to Ukraine. Bloomberg says that Turkey's Isbank is suspending use of Russian Mir cards. New York Times says senior officials from Russia and China have agreed to carry out more joint military exercises and enhance defense cooperation. And Biden met on Friday with Brittany Griner's wife and Paul Whelan's sister. All right, let me show you really quick. Oh my God, I got this box is like 2. Oops. I mean, there's almost two. It was like Christmas with this thing. Oh my God. If you're into Ukrainian stuff, I mean, literally, you can see how big this thing is. It was like freaking Christmas. Oh my God. Okay. The badges. Now, these were some of the badges I was using for shirts and stuff. People weren't into them. I think as badges, you might be into them. Now, I'm forgetting. I know what this is, but I'm forgetting what it is. I'm forgetting if it's the police in Kyiv. It might be. I have to double check. But I mean, this is what I mean. Look at I just love that. These are the things that go on the arms or they go on the shirts, the uniforms. But it says Kyiv at the bottom, which I love, the capital. This one makes me very happy. I know Vlad buys these things and I'm kind of like, all right, if I've got to give some of them away, I will. No, there's enough. These are the patches these are the actual patches the soldiers wear on their shoulder. These are all real from Ukraine. These are the cool ones. You'll see that one for sure. He even sent some Harkovu Mir patches, which is really cool. Harkovu Mir is the charity that the food charity that he's working with that we have given we've raised a lot of money for. The Meals on Wheels, so to speak. This is, I believe, a civil defense badge, but again, this color, it's not doing it justice. This is a beautiful dark burnt orange. I mean, it's way more stunning. This is a police badge that again is gorgeous. I may not show you all of these, but they're so freaking cool. And again, a lot of them we're going to do unboxings. A lot of them we're going to do as gifts. Gifts to people who donate. Some of them we may do auctions. Again, I think, okay, this is the one I liked on a shirt. You will see why in person. This is the police badge. How freaking, and it says Policia on top. How freaking cool is that? I mean, again, these are the real thing. Policia. I mean, that one I love. But at least for me, these would be great Christmas gifts. I always say I never know how it works for other people. I only know like weird stuff that I would like, you know? These are pretty cool. And I've got a couple of each of these. This is neat. I'm forgetting which department this is. Vnutrizhnoi, oh boy, Vespeki. Anyway, it says department on the top. Anybody who speaks Ukrainian can maybe translate. It says department on the top. That's St. George slaying the dragon. This is their emblem for the department. And I'm forgetting what the department was. I'm forgetting. It is not legal to wear these badges if you are not a member. No. You know. Well, some of these we can ship. It's just you've got to be willing to pay the fees. That's the only issue with the badges and things. The badges at least are easy to ship, so to speak, right? Okay. Oh my God. Okay, these are the ones that Syndicate, when I showed him these were coming, he was like, oh my God. Okay. I'm having so much fun with this. Hold on. Oh, I got to get the question out of the way. Hold on. And again, I don't have in front of me what each of these are. So I don't have in front of me, but these are all 100% real Ukrainian insignias for the military. These are brass. These are the brass ones that go on the hats. I think these are actually all probably ones that go on the hats. Hang on. This is a neat one with St. George again. No, the one Syndicate likes is coming up. This is St. George again. This one I'm not convinced is brass. It doesn't look like it. Hold on. I think it was the Navy one you liked, Syndicate. Am I wrong? Hold on. The Navy one's coming up. Oops. Got to get it out of the bag. This one's brass. And it's got the pin. Either it's got the circle so you can wear it as a pin or it can be like a pendant as well. They're pretty cool. Oops. Yeah, that's the one with the, and this, well, I won't even take it out, but this is a neat one because it's the swords crossing. So I'm guessing it could be like the cavalry or something like that, depending what it is. Anyway, you get the idea. But the last thing I'll show you, there's too many of these. Oh, he also sent me dun dun dun for one lucky person. I think we may auction these. The stamps. He got the stamps, which is pretty cool. Those are the Russian warship go F yourself stamps. But he got a number of Vyshyvanka. I'm not going to show you all of these, but they're pretty cool because he went to a much nicer place for these. He was going into the he lives now, because he can't be in Kharkiv because it keeps being bombed, in the Carpathian Mountains. And there are places near there. These Vyshyvanka are like, they're different from the traditional. Like, they're not all white. So the black one, this one I think is really pretty because it's white. The white with like it's silver. This threading is silver, which I think is totally cool. This is similar. This one's neat because it's linen with like to me, this almost looks like a wedding outfit or something. Because you can see how the stitching is it's like a gold, but it's on linen. Anyway, these, I kid you not, he sent me like 20 of these freaking Vyshyvankas. Several for women. Oh, here's one more kind of a silver one. I just think the silver ones are interesting because I've not seen that before. You know, I'm used to seeing these in red. I mean, and we've got blue. We've got red. I mean, I think Vlad went a little, you know, Ukrainian, proud of his culture happy. It was like 23, literally there's 23 Vyshyvanka he sent me. But yeah, the stamp is pretty freaking cool. We'll definitely auction that off. But yeah, the badges are cool. As I said, the pins are really cool. We know what the pins and badges are. So there's, you know, we'll be able to tell you. I mean, I've got the list. I've got it on my computer. I'm just not going to pull it up right now. But we know what everything is. I will tell you one thing. These are so authentic. Vlad may not want me telling you. These are so authentic that Vlad got into trouble shipping them. He got a call from Ukrainian customs. Well, not even customs, for the security, internal security. And the guy talked to him for 45 minutes because he was like, why are you sending military things outside of the country that aren't supposed to be sent out? Apparently, they're not supposed to export these because they're real. And they don't want people, obviously, sneaking in, pretending to be soldiers. So yeah, so he talked to the guy for 45 minutes. I told him, I said, Vlad, if you want to, he could call me too. I mean, as far as an American, but the guy finally believed him in the end. Oh, thank you for the car over there on TikTok. The guy finally believed him in the end that he was doing this for charity, because he is, you know, we're raising money for Ukraine, but it was pretty funky. Yeah. Pretty cool stuff. Yeah. So anyway, yes, I cannot tell you what the I can't tell you what the Discord auction item is. You need to go over there and see it for yourself. We can talk about it on Discord. I can't talk about it here. So there's pictures and everything over there. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. No tractor patches. That's a neat idea, though. That isn't it. I'm trying to get away my box. This box is absolutely huge. Yeah, I don't know about the tractors. That would be pretty neat, though. But yeah, no, the naval thing. Well, we'll be auctioning the pins. No, we'll be auctioning the naval pins. A number of these things, actually. I mean, some of them will be gifts to donors. You know, we'll do like a top. He was thinking like top donor, random donor, and something else, like for, you know, giving 2 or 3 away for this stuff. No, Vlad's great, but he's like so excited. I was like, Vlad, I must have 40 Vyshyvanka now. I'm running my own Ukraine store in Washington, D.C., you know, Mad Vlad. Actually, that'll be his name, his call sign, Mad Vlad. Anyway, but yes, I was very happy about this. All right, guys, I'll go to the Discord and hang out a little bit tonight since I didn't do it on Friday. So go to the Discord, discord.aravosis.com. And I will be hanging out there. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the gifts and the TikTok gifts and the Super Chat questions and all of that. And remember, David Frum is tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. Dave is a huge sort of intellectual here in the States. Canadian, actually, but American citizen now as well, Canadian-born. His family is big in Canada, or was big. His sister is a Canadian member of parliament. So anyway, David's a big deal, but super, trust me, fascinatingly intelligent guy. So you'll like David. All right, guys, good night. Join me over at the Discord. And when you get to the Discord and everything, once you get if you're new, you got to click the README and click the little check mark and all of that. But then scroll down and you'll see voice channels, or I think it's called voice channels, and you'll see John's after show or something like that. I should call it John's after party. I need to change the name. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I got to count to 8 so the TikTokers catch up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. He caught up. All right. Bye, guys.